Don't underestimate
The power
of a single
Conversation.
it could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
Thanks for tuning in to INC Radio Chatline, the place to have conversations that matter. Hello, everybody. I'm Erica from London. Long time no see. And today we'll continue talking about something that, it seems that like a lot of us are experiencing nowadays. And I think everybody knows what it is because we talked about it last week. And this is burnout. So, just a friendly reminder for everybody who's tuning in right now. We're not professionals, like we're not licensed medical professionals, so this broadcast does not serve as a substitute for seeking professional help. We're just here sharing our experiences and what we've personally encountered. So we're looking forward if you would like to join us in the conversation, and we're hoping for you to share your experiences and stories with us too. But if you're not, like if you don't want to and you just want to listen in, it's okay too. All right. So this is funny for me because last week I was with Lionel and Melvi, and today I'm still with them. So thanks again for joining us today. Um, let's give everyone, a quick recap about last week's, show and topic, shall we?
All right. Yeah. So last week we talked about what burnout is, and as well as sort of signs of us encountering burnout. We have a lot of personal stories that we added. So check out last week's episode to see what we talked about. Now, what we left off on the last episode was sort of taking a closer observation as to how burnout affects us. Sometimes taking a step back and assessing what's going on in our lives can be very healthy to our mental health. And today we'll be talking about our mental. As a reminder, we're not medical professionals. This is more of us having a conversation. So today we're going to talk about the importance of self-reflection, as it can play a role in figuring out where the burnout stems from. I wanted to extend this out to my fellow chatliners. What are some causes that we think cause burnout?
I mean, we've talked about it last week, and we mentioned, on top of my head, we mentioned that there's like different things that can cause us feeling burnt out, which is literally, I remember like a pretty much big, like long list from Melvi. First is stress. Stress is a very big factor when it comes to feeling burnt out because you feel the pressure. Secondly, like one of the things that make us, like go to that direction is time management. And I say this because sometimes, I procrastinate. Oops. But I think everybody's experienced that. So, I'm covered. You're not alone. We're all in this together. And at the same time, it's nice to actually talk about something that we can relate to, because that means that it's not just us experiencing it. It's not just us overthinking about, oh, what if it's just like me? No, because we're literally here sharing our different experiences. Also, besides like time management and stress, I think like something that can cause burnout is, mainly these two. Do you have anything to add, Melvi?
You know what? When we're talking the mental part of it, when Elena said, because last week we gauged more on, what was it, physical, right? Physical, emotional. We covered that so much last week. Again, we're not here. We're not professionals. We're just merely sharing you our own personal experiences. So hopefully you can relate. And maybe this also too would help you either cope or maybe remind you that self-assessment, self-reflection are indeed very important in our lives. So to add to what you said, Erica, for me, sometimes I overthink or I become a little bit more ambitious than normal. So I take in all these responsibilities thinking, oh, I can do it. I can do it. So every day, here I am just adding projects one after another, even at work. For example, sometimes I'm multitasking between my own tasks and assigned works. And on top of it, when there are people that are not there and then they assign it to me, I take in more than what I can possibly do, thinking I could finish it in one day but or in a week or meet all the deadlines. So at some point I ended up doing four other works or other people's jobs plus mine. So that makes it five. So you can only imagine how stressful that was for me. And I ended up getting burnt out because guess what? I sacrificed my morning and afternoon breaks during that week just so I can meet the deadline. So that for me was mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausting. So, but yes, also stress and what was it that you mentioned? Stress and
I think she said time management.
yeah, time management. My time was all over the place. I was working on something and then I didn't finish it, put it aside, then started off another thing, put it aside, and then it piled up on me at some point. And so I sat there, having a headache, constant headache, so much tension on my shoulders. And I finally had to walk away, just breathe outside. I don't remember, I think probably on the third or fourth day of the week, and told myself, Melby, even you're forgetting to even breathe. And my heart rate, our watches nowadays would tell us about our heart rate.
Well, tell us about our stress too.
Yes. Or I'm forgetting to stand up, for example. So yes, that part was definitely a wide awakening for me when I was taking more responsibilities than I can possibly accomplish.
Yeah, so it seems like causes of burnout could come from the workload that we take on, thinking that, we can do this, we can do this, we can do all these separate things, but when we put it all together, it starts to become a balancing act that's maybe we've bitten off a bit more than we can chew, which also part of being able to control the wanting to be able to control every little thing. But like I said, like when we put it all together, it becomes this whole different thing. I guess some other causes as well that we mentioned in our previous broadcast was not rewarding ourselves enough for even just the little things, where having a community of friends would also help us out with that, where like, hey, let's go do something, and being able to have that support system and going on breaks and have a little rest and relaxation. And also another thing that we talked about in the last episode was fairness, being fair to ourselves, and having reasonable expectations, um, making sure that our values are also including us ourselves in those values, right? We can have our values such as our family, our friends, our lifestyles, but also making sure that we value ourselves. Now, self-assessment is important. Decisions that we do take afterwards are even more important. So I guess, what do we do first? Like, for example, started talking about the mental actions. Um, if we have any more to share, mental or physical actions to take.
I wanted to ask something before we dive into this, just because I realized, how last week we've talked about sort of like it was sort of an introduction about burnout, right? But how are you, Melby? How are you, Lionel? Because you know what? We talked about burnout, and last week I really felt like I was being called out.
I feel like we're gonna need a part 3 for this.
Okay. And and that I'm not I mean, I'm gonna call it intrusive thought was, how are you? We started with the diving into the topic discussion, but I was just really wondering, how are you? How are you doing?
I am doing well. I have adjusted or made some adjustments in my life that definitely helped me with burnout, with self reflection, self assessment. And I realize this, it takes a lot of work to change a routine, to reframe your mindset, to constantly think positive because every day we're bogged down with so many responsibilities, with all the external factors between work, personal life, our duties, for example, at church, or even with relationships with our friends and loved ones. So if you think about it, there's so many things that could lead us to again thinking negative so easily, like even in a snap of a finger, for example. But the minute I catch myself that, because I am now learning, or I've learned to become more self-aware. I'm still continuously learning though. So I would definitely take into consideration what I need to do. Like I would shift my mind right away. For example, when somebody really made me upset, I would walk away, take a deep breath, and I would excuse myself from that person, say, listen, I don't really want to be on the same page with you right now. I am kind of mentally exhausted. So I just need a moment. Could you please give me a moment? So I would excuse myself, whether I have to use the bathroom or just be in the corner or go inside my car and just sort of breathe. Just breathe and remember and just stay calm so I can address the problem in, let's say if it's at work, in a professional setting, to act professionally with with rational thoughts, and the same thing with people, especially with people I care about, that I would tell them, and I would acknowledge and apologize, and I would let them know what is going on, and hopefully that on their end they would be able to also understand that, and hopefully they can relate it, so we can have that good conversation without having to have a misunderstanding like last times, not last week, but last week's uh what is it topic. But also it won't lead to another sort of set of burnout because of an emotional turmoil or emotional trigger. So for me, I am now proud of myself. I would pat myself in the back for actually taking the time to learn what, or to control a lot of my negative emotions and turn it into a positive one, so I can finally take a breather and tell myself that I can do this, that it's doable, that it's possible, and that there's no need to neglect myself just because I choose to not do anything about it.
Yeah,
Because me,
making
I've learned to also appreciate myself more than ever. It took time, to be honest with you. It was not easy. I had a lot of also, I don't know how to say the word, or I don't even want to say the word, but I guess I can also say some traumatic experiences in life that taught me to be a stronger person. And with experiences, and as you also get older and become more mature about situations or different situations in life, you're able to now share it with others. Like I'm now also sharing it with the audience or the listeners out there, including you, Lionel and Erica, if in case you haven't experienced what I've been through in my life. And hopefully, I get to share something that's positive, that's also productive, that you can probably or perhaps use in your daily experiences in life.
and one thing that I wanted to add on to what you said about having control is being able to learn our emotions. Like what you said, you need to take a step back if someone said something that like it spikes your heart rate and you just want to you just want to give him a 1-2, but we're not supposed to do that. So you just, take a deep breath, just one or two deep breaths to like sort of less to bring down that heart rate and to try to sort of think logically, um, to sort of know what steps to take that would make the best outcome, not just for ourselves, but also for everyone around or everyone involved. Because like last week, we talked about how burnout doesn't only affect us, it also affects those that are around us because of how we act and react to the things around us. Um, and now we've talked about, experiencing burnout, but what would you tell your past self knowing all these things?
I mean, y'all talked about the, mental and physical actions to take when it comes to working out your current situation, which is what we're talking about is burnout. And I guess when it comes to not really telling my past self, but when you think about the past, right? And you're like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But at that time, you didn't know. That's why you didn't act the way you would now. And I think that's like also like leveling up in a way where your perspective widens too. And tackling this topic, for me, it's more on the actions I would take from, now onwards is to try and avoid what I used to do in the past that would take me back to that feeling of being burnt out. I know that's a lot of words. So simply put, I would literally, because I know myself, and as individuals, we know ourselves better than anyone. We also know, like how our body works, if we're really tired, if we're exhausted, or if we're burnt out after, like either being called out or learning what burnout means, or like, what it is pretty much. So, an example that I can give is, and I have so many examples. Wait a second. Okay, so, and let's say I would try my best to not being a yes man. So I remember last week we talked about having back to back things, or having a busy schedule, or actually mentioning the fact that we're used to it. Like we got used to it. We thought that was normal, and that if we felt tired, that was because it was a normal thing. But in reality, it was already, feeling burnt out. And yep, that's what I would do. Like, I'm not saying that, as much as you want to help, I want to help everybody, um we should be, selfish and say no, right? But it's more on what Lionel has mentioned, which is like balance, right? So let's find that balance when it comes to knowing um, when to say yes and when to say no. That's literally up to you. We're not going to tell you when to say that, or like decide if you're going to do it or not. But me personally, I always think this before I say yes or no. First is this task um, just for me to do in a way where am I the only one capable of doing this? And that's why it's been asked, like they've asked me to do it, right? If it's a yes, then actually that's like one of the priorities you should do, because you know that only you can do that. And I'm not saying this in a boastful manner, or like in an arrogant manner. It's more on, like we all have different skills, but I guess we are being approached because they know that we hold these skills, right? But if it's not that the answer, and it can be delegated, then I would answer no in a polite way, where I would mention that there are different tasks that have been assigned to me that at the moment, because I've been able to hone those skills, I'm the one taking care of them. And if the 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 task that I've been asked to do can be delegated, then just ask them politely if they can pass it to someone else that can do it. So that's like a first step that I usually do now when it comes to um, not being overwhelmed with a lot of responsibilities. Wow, I was able to English that. Okay.
Yeah, and like being able to have that balance. For me personally, there's sort of a bit like a rough flow chart in my head of like when someone comes to me with a task, like, hey, can you do this? I first go like, okay, what am I doing right now? Can I add this to the list of things that I can do? When does this need to be done? If it can be pushed back a little bit so I can take care of the things I'm doing right now, then I'll get to it. But if it can't, then that's when I'll do what Erica said and say, can this be delegated to someone else because I'm dealing with this right now. It's sort of like, I remember this sort of analogy. I don't remember how long ago I heard of it, but when we're driving a car, right, there is the check engine light. Once the check engine light starts coming on, we wouldn't really want to wait until something actually catastrophic happens to the car that then take it into the mechanic to get it fixed. As soon like right, which reminds me, the check engine light on my car is on right now. I need to go bring it to the mechanic to get fixed. But our body kind of tells us what when there's something that needs to be addressed. I know last episode we talked about the what was it, like the signs of burnout, which is one of them was the fatigue. And one thing that we should take care of is ourselves. So part of it would be our self care, such as sleep tracking, evaluating diets. I know, Erica, I don't know, you started going to the gym recently and starting exercising, which, another
Okay,
thing is like
wait there,
inspiration.
wait there. I mean, we sort of stopped, but we're gonna continue. I mean, one thing is one thing that we should keep in mind, like as a friendly reminder, is that even though you stop, that doesn't mean you're failing because progress can be as little as, okay, I'm not going to the gym today, but I'm going to walk a bit. So, it's like that consistency. As long as you do it every day, then you're going to get better at it. But at the same time, for example, I just stopped Lionel because I kind of stopped going to the gym. But, compensating that, instead of going to the gym, I've been walking a lot. So it's still, like moving and being physically active. Okay, you can continue.
I wanted to say that it's certain that you being physically active has sort of been like an inspiration for me to try to start being active. Like at work, like we would be me and my coworkers, like 2 hours, like a couple hours into the day when it's time for us to take our 15-minute break, we would usually walk probably like that full 15 minutes. We're just walking around to get our steps in, but also two to sort of get a mental break from what we're doing at work, because sometimes it can just be mind numbing, just keep going, and then like, oh wait, okay, time to take a break. I'm getting a bit exhausted. And it would help with the sort of monotonous grind of working on a project for so long. And like I said, it's for us to be able to seek inspiration. It could be from our friends. It could be from like previous hobbies. For us to try to have like motivation. Being like switching it up a little might help us with motivation. Like I
Um,
said, taking intentional breaks.
can
Yes,
I
jump
mean,
in, go.
just because you mentioned motivation. I mean, at the beginning, I would say motivation because that's what pushes me to, like start and do something. But at the same time, what I've learned, lately as well is okay, motivation is a good start. But at the same time, as you are motivated, um, you know, m- I guess what I'm trying to say is being motivated is different from being disciplined, because as much as like being motivated sounds very positive, which is very very positive as well, but at the same time, if we're trying to like get better and try to reach our goal, then we can switch from being motivated to being disciplined, because being motivated is that feeling where, yes, I feel like it, I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. But then there comes a day where you're like, actually, that's me a little bit, but sometimes I'm like that. Like, for example, putting it into an example, like a proper, experience is going to gym, right? Yes, I was so much motivated to go to the gym. I started going to the gym because I have a friend that goes with like to the gym with me, and then I realized that I started like once a week to go to the gym, um, and then wait, my brain froze. Okay, and then after going once a week, I started going twice a week, and all the other days where I would not go, actually, I wasn't really moving as much, and that was me being not motivated. But if you put discipline in your routine, it's gonna be totally different, because besides being motivated on those days where you're like, yes, I can do it, I'm gonna do it, there's days where throughout the week you're gonna be tired, but you're still gonna do it. So that's the difference. And I'm not saying, Lionel, that you're wrong. It's just that I wanted to point out that, because, we've been talking about motivation, but at the same time, it's like, yes, that can be a start for everything, for everything to, go on a roll. But at the same time, I guess like another like friendly reminder for us is not to rely on motivation only, but I guess let's practice being disciplined. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think motivation, like you said, is a great starting point, because everything's the first step would be to be motivated to do that thing. But um, after the motivation runs out, right, we got to make sure that we're continuously taking that next step. Like maybe even taking a bigger step, like we mentioned, was you were going to gym once a week, then twice a week. Making um, discipline, but also not just being disciplined, but also doing, um, but also having good habits. Good habits will also help us on times where we feel stuck, on times where we feel like, oh, we can't really go on. But once we start building those habits little by little, it's something that we can sort of go off of. Uh, there's a fly here, sorry. Um, it's being our own form, being us ourselves, being our own inspiration and motivation to improve ourselves. Um, One thing that I personally try to keep in mind is, as long as I did a little bit better today than I did yesterday, then it's good. It's a good thing to continuously progress. Now, while progression doesn't always mean up, up, and up. Um, I'm pretty sure we've seen all those some of those motivational posts where progression is not just adding a little more each
It's
day.
not linear. It's
It's not
not
linear. Yeah, it's not linear.
linear.
Like the analogy that people constantly use for life is that life is a roller coaster. There's gonna be ups and downs and corkscrews and I don't know what other form turns that roller coasters can make, but it will be the ride of the life to go through all of that, and gaining those experiences, and to go off what Erica said was having company, and hopefully your company will help bring you back up to developing those habits again and
I mean,
discipline.
talking about like company, I get we're talking about it anyways. N- We like so hard to put into words right now. It's it's that feeling that when you feel burnt out, you're all alone. And that's why it's hard to get out of it, because it pushes you to either self reflect, right? And go past it, because you're reflecting on what you're doing that can be changed, and that's how you get out of it. Or other way around is you just ponder upon it. And that's why with company, what you mentioned is final, it really does help. And also another thing is, it's not a bad thing to actually open up with someone and tell them what's going on. I mean, I got a lot of friends that keep hearing the same thing, and they keep telling me the same reminders. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I'm burnt out again. But yes, it's like it makes me smile, because as much as you open up with someone, like to someone, and then they remind you, your loved ones are going to be there reminding you all the time, because they love you, and they're not going to get tired of it. I mean, I smile now because I feel burnt out a little bit, but at the same time, it just makes me smile, the fact that I do get reminded. It's just that it's hard. It's just hard. I mean, Melby, help, please.
Sorry. I apologize for the disconnection earlier. We had a little bit of what is it called? Anyway, going forward with what you said, the first question you should ask yourself is, all right, I'm getting all these reminders. I'm getting all these, these comments from people that care about me. Maybe even including in your deep conscience, right? Sometimes your mind speaks to you without even realizing what you need to do. But the question for us, or within ourselves, is, have we done something about it? Because if it's a repetitive cycle, if it's a repetitive comment, the same comment they're telling us, hey, you look like this, or what, and so on and so forth. And you think, okay, I guess I haven't done anything about this, because I'm getting the same comments, the same thing over and over again from people who care about me deeply. And here's another thing: when it comes to motivation, you're right, absolutely right. I agree. Motivation can never be good enough, because you also need to have grit. Above all, the question, the big capital Y question, WHY, why and what is your purpose? If you cannot find your purpose in life, you're going to be all over the place. I am speaking from experience. I don't know about you too, but when I'm doing something, I feel like, okay, it's fulfilling, it's good, it's satisfactory, it's excellent, but sometimes I find myself sitting and again self-assessing, self-reflecting, and at the end of the day, I ask myself this question: is it good enough for me? Does this really make me happy? Is this really my purpose in life? Okay, so I'm doing all of this, causing my body to burn out, causing all these problems, health problems even. But am I really fulfilling what I need to fulfill within me and the people I care about also? Because if you don't, and you don't reflect on that, then what's the point, right? What is the whole point of exerting so much effort only to be disappointed in the end, because you feel like it's never good enough? It's never, it's one of those where sometimes we can't even help ourselves. How come he or she's not burnt out and I am, but then they're so much happier? I don't get it. Or we're doing the same thing, but how come they feel like they got it going within them, but then with me, I'm still missing something. So what is it? But the minute you find your purpose, the reason why you're doing it in the first place, I guarantee you things will change and your mindset will change. Your feelings and emotions will change. And in the end, you're going to learn what really matters most because deep in your heart, you now know what you really want out of your life. And I can't emphasize this enough because we cannot see. And also, if you're not going to start now, I forgot to add this to Erica last time when she shared her very personal experience that absolutely touched my heart. That if you don't give yourself an opportunity for that, for a change, how can you see the best version? Then that means you're preventing your best version of yourself in the future, because then you won't know. If you don't fix the problem now, then how can you amplify your life? How can you improve yourself? How can you see you basically you're preventing your future self to be the best version of yourself if you don't take that one step, even just 1%, right? For example, like with saving money, we can also be burnt out in that when there's so many factors including on that, right? Financial problems, for example, we can also experience burnout with that. But if you set aside even just, let's say we have what, it's $365 a day, you set aside $1 per day. Isn't it rewarding to say, oh, I got $365 at the end of the year? It was just $1 per day that I did, out of a sacrifice for maybe a soda or something or an energy drink or a small cup of coffee. So yeah, that's my thing is I finally found my purpose and the why. It's what's driving me right now. Every day that I make not only each day count, but I do my best because, you know, given that opportunity to be able to even wake up and feel blessed and grateful that we have each other, Erica, Lionel, and of course the rest of the people that care about us, then that means we have right there and then we already have a purpose. We just need to, kind of add on to it, if that makes sense. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk too much.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I think really trying to focus on what matters to us and how we can achieve our goals are great potential steps of recovering from burnout or getting through burnout, even. Um, so for me, what's sort of been my motivation was so growing up, I grew up on like those interconnecting building blocks and like a bunch of sci-fi movies that um when I was, when you're younger, you have all this great imagination and whatnot. And a motivation would be like, can be as simple as like a childhood dream as to what you need to step back, reassess, and realize, okay, here's where I want to be. How can I get there? Um, and what are some steps to take? There was one that was mentioned last episode that you mentioned, Melvi. It was journaling. I've never journaled. I'm not much of a journalist. Uh, but how do you journal?
On a daily basis, I would write down what I've done different in a day. And so I would have short term and long term goals. And I would write down even just, let's say, oh, today my goal was 10, let's say my goal was 10,000 steps. And I ended up doing 15 or 20,000 steps. And tomorrow, again, I challenge myself to something better. Or let's say learn a new language, right? Or learn how to play. Right now, I'm learning how to play the ukulele. So I journal that, what are your improvements for the week, for the month, for the year? What have you done something different today? Or I would even just write there in the journal, you're special, do something different, go challenge yourself. Even just small phrases that would constantly remind me that we're capable individuals, and that in order for us to fulfill what we want to fulfill, whether if it's something different or we've always been doing so already in our routine, but if you want or if like I chose to have an excitement or exciting life every day, and I always want to try something different, something new, even just the way I behave, even just the way, let's say, how I speak, how to improve my communication skills, for example. So I would journal that, everything, even if it's just phrases or keywords, I would journal it, and I would look back and just put it, honestly, even negative things, even negative attributes or negative emotions, I would journal it. And then I start checking it off. All right, what triggers this? What is the problem here, Melvin? You need to fix this problem, Melvin. Tomorrow you got to do better because you just did all this negative stuff today. So it's a reminder for me. And believe it or not, I also do it on my phone, on my notes. Today I did this and I thought I never would, but I actually did it. So then I would treat myself for an ice cream or a refresher drink, for example, and that'll be my day. Then I'm happy. I'm smiling, even though there's still problems in life, you know? So yeah, that's how I journal. And I didn't do it before, Lionel, as well. It's something that I've I've done probably two, three, no, about 3 years now. 3 years now. So
3 years
you have to
is
start. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. Even if I don't bring it at work, I would have a post-it. I would write something there, and I would post it on my journal when I get home.
oh,
Yeah. It's an affirmation that I did something different for the day, or even if I did it out of anger, for example, or out of frustrations, I still noted it because I wanted to see, I guess you can also say, the behavior pattern of what's good for my health and what's causing, let's say, constant headaches or constant sadness. What are these factors? So, in order for me to figure that one out, I had to journalize it so I can see a pattern of certain behaviors or how I've reacted to certain situations in my life. Hey, Tony. How are you doing?
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
guys. Good for you to join us in this conversation. I've been wanting to hear from you, or we've been
I
wanting to hear
know
from
I'm a little late to the party, but I've been trying to listen, and my understanding is that we're talking about burnout today.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I sounded so cheerful about that, but okay, go on.
Yeah.
So what what exactly are we talking about in terms of burnout? I know that we've talked. There's been points where we've talked about, I guess, identifying it, but we're more in the. It sounds like we're more in the resolution,
Yeah,
journaling, right?
we're literally like pointing out or like sharing, actually sharing some of the things that helped us you know um overcome burnout.
Over
Yes,
overcome.
we go
So
towards the solution now.
yeah, it's always good to be solution finders or trying to think of, how can we get past something, right? One of the things that I've kind of noticed with that idea of burnout is that it's kind of different for everyone, right? Everybody has different ways of coping with stuff, and I don't want to say something that will sound like a one size fits all kind of thing, but what's always worked for me is kind of um, taking a step back and reassessing, where I'm at, right? Where am I at? How am I how am I feeling towards these different things that I'm handling? And this is coming from recent experience of burnout. Just by
Can
the
I
way.
say no? Honestly, I was gonna say I'm gonna cut you there politely. Sorry, Tony, but I was like, why is it that in this panel everybody's aware? Because I feel like I'm the only one that's not aware of it, and I'm just like being called out in a friendly way, like in a loving way. But I was like, but then you said, like, just a few days ago or something like that. Just like now, you find like you've been self-reflecting, I guess, about these things.
Yeah, well, what I would say, knowing you, Erica, is that it's not necessarily that you're not aware, but knowing you, you have a very strong, I don't know, conviction. I'm trying to think of like a more simple word, but just knowing who you are, you have a very strong conviction. And I know a lot of people who have very strong conviction when it comes to different stuff. And sometimes we kind of get into this mode of, we can power through, and we know we can do this, and we can, right? But sometimes it feels like we don't realize where our bodies kind of cap off, right? And what I've realized with myself is that in the moments that I have felt burnout, it's after I've just gone through this series of things, and then my body's starting to feel it, and it's starting to catch up, and I'm like, oh, I'm a lot more tired than I thought it was, I guess. And the reason why I kind of get to those points is because, you know, I realized how it's affected other aspects of my life, and that's kind of it didn't take me like an instant to get to this place. It's something that I've kind of had to learn over just years of realizing, like, oh, maybe I'm feeling burnt out because my mind is just not in the place that I want it to be, right? So one of the things that I try to do is, like I said, I try to step back regularly to kind of see where I'm at, especially when I notice things are off about the normal way that I kind of function, the normal way that I get around with socializing with my friends. Am I doing things that are kind of more off? And I always try to ask myself, have I given up on my creative stuff? I feel like that's like the biggest flag for me, that I kind of that that will trigger me to think like, oh, maybe I haven't been spending enough time just doing more relaxed things. And then that's my cue to go and do those things. Because in the moments that I've had my burnout are those times where I wasn't able to release my creative side. Because I feel that I'm a very creative person, whether it's musically, I'm very into photography. There's just a lot of things that I do in relation to art. And when I feel like it's all bottled up and I don't get to channel my feelings and all of those things through that, then everything just kind of sits. And I need those outlets. I know for sure that I need those outlets. So those are both my, I guess, solution to helping overcome my burnout, and also my indicators of maybe I'm at that point of getting burnt out because I haven't been able to do these things. It's just been go, go, go. It's just been, one thing after another. And not having those points of creativeness, those moments of creation, of being creative, whether it's music, whether it's photography, it does require you to kind of sit and not be so intense into these other things, right? Like when I'm doing music, it's not something that's like 10 times speed. You're trying to check. It's not like a checklist kind of thing, right? It's something that you're just sitting and you're just enjoying, and you're like, oh, I really like this song. I want to keep playing this song, whether it's on guitar, whether it's on piano. Or sometimes I'll just send videos of me playing to my friends because I know maybe it's a song that they would like, or it's just something that sometimes they like listening to my voice. I don't know why. But it's simple things that I like to do, that I notice that once I stop doing them, like, oh, maybe I need to spend more time, doing these more relaxed things because I haven't been doing enough of them. And that's different for everybody. For other people, that kind of stuff may be like work intensive. That might sound like work for you, but you know, we all can kind of feel what our bodies are like when we're going through those kind of moments, right? It feels different. You just feel different. You almost feel like a different. Has that happened to any of you? You kind of feel like a different person when you're bogged down and
It's like
burnout.
you are re-energized because, as you mentioned, we're all different, right?
Hmm.
So for someone who can relax in a way where you're going to hike, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel, like refreshed after that, then, it's good for you because you know yourself. But for others, maybe it be a long nap. That's like, it's like, what I've noticed, for example, for myself is I ask myself, what kind of fun do I want to do today? So it's like the relaxed one or the adventure one. So, it depends on the person.
Yeah, I agree. It totally depends on what we find as what's called a eustress, which is the good stress, to sort of help take help us take intentional breaks. For me, when I started getting through burnout when I was in university or uni, according to Erica,
Mm.
is I started playing volleyball more. Like my friends would go out and play volleyball, and so it helped give me a physical outlet of that stress. Trying to like, all you got to do is just hit the ball really hard in volleyball, and that's like all the stress gone for the week. And like you said, like we said, like we have mentioned, it's different for everyone, whether it be a creative outlet, a physical outlet, with even hiking, which I do miss going hiking. So I might go hiking soon with friends. Um, being having an outlet is such a good way to help us with burnout because it switches up the routine a little, it helps takes our mind off what's giving us that bad stress.
For sure.
I know,
Friends too.
Tony, you said you gave a thumbs up, Tony.
Yeah, I did. I think of friends too as a good outlet because what I've noticed about myself, I don't know if this is true for any of you, when I get burnt out, I tend to isolate a lot. And I think my friends know this about me, that I kind of get into my own shell of everything. But that's important too, is to be conscious about making the time, like making the time to socialize, because in in wanting to get everything done and like, oh, like checking off your list and all those things, we can forget that, oh, we actually need some face time, from like face interaction with other people, like not just your laptop. You know what I mean?
Or like anything virtual, actually. But at the
Yeah.
same time, Tony, I don't want to sound uh like the one who's telling you there's also the other side, which is, as much as people will be laughing. No, because okay, reaching out, seeking out, like your friends and hanging out with them, but at the same time, focus.
True.
Y'all focus. So just like be sure that as much as you're taking a break, you're not letting go of that, focus, because I guess when it comes to taking intentional breaks, sometimes, and I don't say it's a bad thing, but sometimes they lead to procrastination.
Yes.
Make
That's
sure the break
why.
stays as a break.
That's why they call it not procrastination per se in terms of taking a break for that, but this is why we have to take vacations.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about procrastinations, about other people, or you getting bogged down by everything else, but taking time for yourself to just relax, just take care of you. And if you do it with friends or loved ones, or even by yourself, like for myself, I love the beaches, the rivers, or any body of water that I see. I just like to sit in front of it and just be carefree. I don't think about anything else. I just look at the water, take photos of it because like Tony, I love photography. I'm still honing my skills in that as well as video editing because I know she's very good at it. I'm sure everyone else in here, I'm still
Yeah.
learning. But yes, taking a huge break is definitely part of, just taking care of us, of focusing on us. And that way we can continue to function in a proper way and not feel so burnt out in our daily lives.
Thank you so much, Melby, for that. Because, I feel like in this like conversation, I've been like the one saying nah, you know what I mean? So just like I just wanna, sort of like recap, or not really recap, but I wanna just like highlight the potential steps that we've talked about today, which is, the first thing is, which I love, and I started it personally, but then I sort of stopped. I really need to actually discipline myself. Okay, like journaling, as Melvi has mentioned, it's a great help, because if you're overthinking, that helps you to put your thoughts into words. And also, well, when earlier we were talking about gym, so physical activity, exercising, which leads to self-care, because not only we get to be physically healthy, but also mentally too. So if we do work out, we're healthy also emotionally as well. Because when it comes to what we do physically that also affects what we do all around, right? So that means that when it comes to self-care, sleep, please. And I say that because everybody can relate to that. But we're doing better. I mean, yeah, we're trying to, take those naps, sleep better, and also like, you know how people do go out and exercise. Um, it is important to also check out what we eat, because as much as we work out a lot, technically there's like a percentage. I'm not gonna say which percentage because honestly I don't remember, and I'm not a professional, as mentioned. We're not medical professionals here, but there's like a certain percentage where workouts work for your body, for you to be, stronger physically, but it's what you eat that keeps you healthy. So, let's eat veggies and fruits. I'm saying this and I'm smiling because I should do that too, like more often. Okay. And then, you know, everything that you have mentioned, Melvi, Lionel, Tony, it's been very inspirational. And that's what all of us need, something that we look forward to, something that can give us a little bit of, how do you say that, like a fresh of what, I don't
A
know, I
breath
can't.
of fresh air.
Breath of fresh air.
Yeah, there you go. So much. Okay, FYI, English is not my native language. Okay, so like when it comes to that, it's it's like finding hobbies that we've mentioned earlier, but also like being motivated to do it. But besides being motivated, is learning how to be disciplined so that we can get the hang of it. It's in our routine, and with that being said, we should include in our routine, taking intentional breaks, which will not lead to procrastinating, because not only we are reaching out, or actually we are aware of how we are, we're like self-reflecting, but also we are reaching out to our friends, our loved ones, and we can hang out with them without losing our focus, right?
Can I
mean,
add, actually, Erica, what helps with the breaks? Because one question that I've gotten before is, how long is a break? like how long is a break supposed to be? I would time yourself. Just put like a small timer on your phone, like 5, 10, 15 minutes. Nothing more than it would distract you from what you're supposed to be doing, right?
also, how you mentioned that there's no specific, break, like
Mhm.
time wise, right? I realized that it depends on the task that you're doing,
Yes.
because it might be like a 2 minute, going to the kitchen and going back, or it could be a
Mhm.
5 minute, or it could be like a 25-minute where you can watch. Are we even allowed to say that? We can watch a series that's like animated and it's in Japanese. Okay. Or like other things. So it's individual. It can vary, but definitely all these things that we mentioned throughout our conversation today have been very helpful to me. And I'm saying this like live because I'm like, at least I know, I'm more aware now. But again, unfortunately, INC Radio Chatline is just 1 hour. And as much as we would love to talk about this topic, which is very timely too for myself, and also very relatable for some of you that are tuning in right now, it's time for us to say goodbye. But before that, if Lionel, Tony, and I can't right now, sorry, and Melvi would like to add up something more regarding our topic, along with your greetings. Feel free to speak. I'm not calling anyone.
All right, I'll call
Melvy's
someone.
laughing.
Melvy. Melvy's laughing, so she can go first.
Okay, this has been indeed a great conversation. I did learn a lot from you, and hopefully, our listeners and viewers out there learned as well. Thank you for tuning in, and It's never too late to start something new, especially when it benefits our physical health and mental health and emotional health and spiritual health and all the rest, name it. So let's continue to be happy, never give up, and always remember that you are never alone and we're just right here every Friday. So thank you, Chatline, for having me.
Yes. For me, I'll just put out there what's always helped me is just reflection. Always check in with yourself. It helps just to step back, see where you're at, and then figure out what you need to do next. It could be anything from all the different things that we've talked about today, but just keep checking in on yourself because the first person that will do that for you is you. So check in on yourself as often as you need to, as often as you can. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Chatline, for having us on for 2 weeks in a row.
I know. I miss Chatline. Sorry, being rude. Go ahead.
No, I don't know. Everyone said everything that I wanted to say. I guess just close this out, Erica.
What are your greetings?
Oh wait, we didn't do our greetings.
You didn't do your greetings.
I'll just greet INC Radio, Orange County, California, for our INC Radio family, especially those of us who are in the District of Orange County, California. All my friends who are and family who are over there abroad and nearby as well. Shout out to everyone.
Okay. Did you do your greetings?
I'm good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Shout out to
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. Have a good weekend.
Okay, so everybody, thank you so much again for joining us today. Burnout is a tough topic, and we've seen from last week from tears to, laughter too. So it's tough, because it can hit everyone differently for sure, and for different reasons and different stages of life, because we're all, we're different ages, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we're peers. I'm gonna say we're peers right now. But okay, but what's important for us is to stay self-aware first. So as Tony has mentioned, let's check on ourselves when things start to change in a way where you really like notice the changes as well. Seeking and accepting help is important too, so that we can ensure that we can give our best to all our priorities while still caring for ourselves. That is important because, as mentioned in our first part of the show, we are not alone. So we might be feeling burnt out, but don't think that it's just you going through it, because we can still open up to our loved ones, our friends, and seek advice and get some help as well. And all of the work that we do to improve, of course, includes our prayers, to have that guidance from God through hard moments, especially through hard moments. But of course, we do always have happy, sad moments every time. Anyways, we know that we always include these in our prayers. And as we have mentioned, the potential, I guess, steps, right, towards us finding or towards the solutions to not fall into feeling burnt out, we make sure that God knows our plans, and then we completely put our trust in Him and His plans for us too. So to our listeners here on INC Radio Chat Line, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your stories as well. And we hope that you have, somewhere to start if you're working through a period of burnout. I mean, you may feel tired and exhausted now, but it's not gonna feel like that forever. It's gonna get better at some point and hopefully soon. So, we mentioned as well throughout the conversation that we're not medical professionals. So we can't guarantee your recovery, but we do hope that this conversation today and last week's as well shows you that, again, you aren't alone and that there are ways out of it. So, what's required of us is to try, to start somewhere, and keep going. So, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us during our conversation here on INC Radio Chatline. We hope that this has been a conversation that mattered to you. See you guys next time, next week on INC Radio Chatline. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.